Hello, welcome to our professional learning session today. My name is Karen Brooke, my company is Ocean Education. I'm a partner at Darple and I'll be facilitating your session today. This presentation outlines how culture, heritage and sport organisations in Wales can actively embed anti-racist measures. These measures align with the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, RWAP. The Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan underpins our actions and outlines goals to create real change towards Wales being an anti-racist nation by 2030. There are key goals of the Action Plan. We have a professional learning session introducing the specific goals linked to the culture, heritage and sports sector, and I encourage you to access this learning if you have not done so already. Moving from policy to practice. To embed anti-racist measures, we must understand racism. Understanding anti-racism is not a passive exercise. It demands active combat against racist ideologies and practices that perpetuate inequality within our Welsh communities. We must move beyond simply acknowledging racism to actively dismantling the very structures that enable it. This understanding is rooted in promoting equity, not just equality. Equity recognises that different groups have different needs and experiences. It means ensuring that everyone has the resources and opportunities they need to thrive, regardless of their background. Ultimately, understanding anti-racism requires a commitment to dismantling systemic structures of oppression. This means challenging the policies, practices and power dynamics that perpetuate racial disparities within our institutions and our workplaces, and also our communities. It's about recognising that anti-racism is not a destination but a continuous process of learning, action and accountability. It's a commitment to building a Wales where everyone feels valued, respected and empowered. Building on our understanding of anti-racism as an active commitment to equity and dismantling systemic structures, let's now consider the crucial role that culture, heritage and sport play within this context in Wales. Culture and heritage, as we know, are powerful forces that shape our national identity and understanding of ourselves. They offer an unparalleled platform for both positive change and, unfortunately, the potential for harm if mishandled. As we all see, culture, heritage and sport provide a unique opportunity for visible change and leadership in our collective journey towards a more anti-racist society. To translate the potential of culture, heritage and sport into meaningful systemic change here in Wales, we need to assess where we are currently. We cannot simply rely on good intentions. We must engage in rigorous evidence-based, data-driven evaluation of our existing structures and practices. This next step involves conducting a thorough audit of our policies and procedures, examining them not just for overt discrimination, but also for the subtle ways in which they might perpetuate racial inequality. We need to gather comprehensive data, including both quantitative metrics and qualitative narratives, to understand the extent of disparities within our organisations and communities. This data will serve as a crucial tool in identifying concrete areas where improvements can be made. It will allow us to move beyond surface level changes and address the root causes of systemic racism within our cultural and sporting institutions. By understanding the current state of our practices, we can develop targeted strategies to embed anti-racist measures at every level. This means creating policies that actively promote equity, fostering inclusive environments where everyone feels valued and respected, and dismantling the power structures that perpetuate inequality. This assessment is not a one-time event, but it's an ongoing process. By continuously evaluating our practices and adapting our strategies, we can ensure that our efforts are truly impactful. Our assessment of current practices, as we discussed, will only be effective if it is paired with strong leadership and accountability. It's not enough to simply identify areas for improvement. We must ensure that there is a clear and unwavering commitment to anti-racism at every level of our organisation here in Wales. This requires securing a firm commitment to anti-racism from leadership at every level, from senior management to grassroots volunteers. This commitment must be more than just words. It must be reflected in actions, policies and resource allocation in particular. We need leaders who are not afraid to challenge the status quo, who are willing to listen to a diverse range of perspectives, or who have lived and are living experiences of racism, and who are personally invested in driving meaningful change. Furthermore, we need to set specific and measurable objectives for our anti-racism efforts. These objectives must be clear, achievable and aligned with our overall goal of an anti-racist Wales. They should also be time-bound, allowing us to track our progress and hold ourselves accountable for meeting our targets. Finally, we must establish clear measures to monitor our progress and ensure accountability for achieving our goals in building an anti-racist Wales. This involves developing robust data collection and analysis systems, conducting regular reviews of our policies and practices, and establishing mechanisms for feedback and reporting. We must be transparent about our progress and willing to share and learn from our mistakes. We have excellent examples of this in our bank of case studies where challenges have been shared. By prioritising transparent leadership and accountability, we can ensure that our anti-racism efforts are not just well-intentioned but truly transformative. Building on the crucial foundation of leadership and accountability, we now turn our attention to the essential task of diversifying our workforce and leadership. This is not simply about meeting quotas. Leadership commitment is crucial. Leaders must actively champion anti-racism, not just pay lip service to the concept. Leaders must use their powers to become role models for inclusion initiatives rather than silencing them. We must hold our leaders accountable for fostering a culture of inclusion where everyone feels valued and respected. We need to embed inclusion in organisational values. Inclusion must be a core value, not a standalone initiative or a tick box exercise. As the CIPD highlights, genuinely valuing individual differences is key. Your organisational culture must reflect this commitment. As the CIPD guidelines rightly emphasise, we must move beyond diversity metrics. We need to shift our focus from mere representation, the numbers, to achieving genuine inclusion and equity. As they state, increasing representation for minority groups is not a panacea. While quantitative data is important, the overall need is to concentrate on systemic change, addressing the root causes of inequality rather than just surface level diversity. We must also foster a climate of psychological safety. Employees should feel safe to voice concerns about racism without fear of reprisal. Employees should feel like they have agency in decision-making processes and important networks. We must encourage open dialogue and feedback, creating an environment where everyone feels heard. Implementing equitable policies and practice is paramount. we need to review and revise our HR policies to eliminate affinity bias in recruitment, promotion and performance management. Fair policies and practices must be in place, facilitating opportunities for all employees to progress, participate and use their voice to have a say in matters that affect them. We must also implement clear accountability mechanisms for addressing racist incidents. Critically, we must focus on individual inclusion. At an individual level, workplace inclusion relates to feelings of belonging, having a voice and being valued for your unique and authentic individual skills and abilities. We need to ensure that all employees feel valued, respected and able to be their authentic selves. We should measure and tracking progress is essential. We must regularly assess inclusion through surveys, feedback and data analysis, track progress on key metrics related to equity and inclusion, and hold our organisation accountable for its progress. Finally, we need to invest in education and professional learning. We must provide anti-racism training for all employees, especially managers, with a focus on recognising and addressing affinity bias. As the CIPD powerfully reminds us, positive change on inclusion can only come through concerted, meaningful and intentional action, and ultimately evidence must be the basis of decisions we make in the profession, and this should be apparent nowhere more so than in the inclusion space. Having established the importance of diversifying our workforce and leadership, we now turn to the critical role of professional learning and education in sustaining and deepening our anti-racist practice. This is not a one-time fix, but an ongoing commitment to growth and understanding. To creating lasting change, we must invest in the continuous development of our staff and volunteers. This involves providing professional learning and education, as well as ongoing learning and development opportunities that equip everyone with the knowledge and skills to identify and challenge racism effectively. Cultural competency development programs are needed in this process, helping us to understand and navigate a diverse range of perspectives with sensitivity and respect. Furthermore, all staff, regardless of their role, must participate in mandatory anti-racism training. This training should not be a superficial exercise, but a deep dive into the complexities of racism, its impact on individuals and communities, and practical strategies for creating a more inclusive environment. By prioritising professional learning and education, we empower our people to become agents of change, fostering a culture of continuous improvement. We can now turn our attention to inclusive programming and curation. It is through our exhibitions, performances and public-facing work that we can truly shape narratives and foster understanding within our communities. This means we must actively represent a diverse range of narratives and experiences in our programming. We need to move beyond traditional, often narrow perspectives and ensure that the stories we tell are accurate and reflect the rich tapestry of our Welsh society. Critically, we must also challenge colonial and racist legacies that have shaped our cultural and historical narrative. This requires a critical examination of our collections, archives and interpretations, and a commitment to presenting a more honest and balanced view of our past. And perhaps most importantly, we must actively collaborate, co-create and co-produce with racialised communities on projects. This involves genuine partnership, shared decision makings, and a commitment to ensuring that community voices are central to the creation and presentation of our cultural and heritage work. What does it mean to have anti-racist services? We need services that are truly accessible and inclusive to all members of our communities. This means removing barriers and proactively creating welcoming environments for everyone. This could include providing comprehensive language services. We must recognise that language can be a significant barrier to access, and therefore we need to offer translation and interpretation services in a variety of languages, ensuring that everyone can fully participate in our cultural and sporting offerings. Furthermore, we must develop culturally sensitive services. This involves understanding and respecting the diverse cultural needs and preferences of our communities and adapting our services accordingly. We must move beyond a one-size-fits-all approach and ensure our services are culturally relevant and responsive. Finally, we must commit to adapting our facilities. This means making our physical spaces and online platforms more accessible, ensuring that they are welcoming and inclusive to people from all backgrounds. This might involve adapting signage, providing accessible entrances, or creating quiet spaces for individuals with sensory sensitivities. Embedding anti-racist measures means connecting with our communities. This is not about outreach as an afterthought or saviour mindset activity, but about building genuine, lasting partnerships. First and foremost, we must actively build partnerships with ethnic minority organisations. These partnerships should be based on mutual respect and shared goals, ensuring that community voices are central to our work. Secondly, we must involve communities in decision-making processes. This means moving beyond tokenistic consultations and creating structures where communities have real power to shape the direction of our organisations. Finally, we need to co-create and co-produce programmes and exhibitions. This collaborative approach ensures that our work is relevant, engaging, and truly reflects the diverse experiences of our communities. Undertake our professional learning session on co-creation and co-production. We have a session specific for sporting organisation and another for cultural and heritage organisations. Our commitment to anti-racism extends to how we communicate and present ourselves to the world. We must ensure that our marketing and communications reflect our values and contribute to a more equitable and inclusive Wales. This means prioritising representation. We must actively avoid misrepresenting or underrepresenting any groups within our marketing materials and communications. Our imagery, language and narratives should reflect the true diversity of our communities. We must also use inclusive language. Our communications should be free from bias and stereotypes, and we should strive to use language that is respectful and affirming of all identities. Furthermore, we need to amplify lived experiences. Our marketing and communication should provide platforms for our individuals from a diverse range of backgrounds to share their stories in their own voices. This ensures authenticity and helps to challenge dominant narratives. To guide us in this work, I'd like to highlight the Amnesty International Guide on Equitable and Anti-Racist Communications, which provides valuable insights and practical recommendations for creating inclusive and impactful messaging. By prioritising representation, using inclusive language and amplifying lived experiences in our marketing and communications, we can create a powerful force for positive change. To truly embed anti-racist principles within our cultural heritage and sporting organisations here in Wales, we must address the crucial area of funding and resource allocation. First, we must ensure the equitable distribution of resources across all initiatives. This means moving beyond a one-size-fits-all approach and critically examining how funding is currently allocated. We must strive to ensure that all projects, regardless of their focus, have access to the resources they need to thrive, particularly those aimed at addressing racial inequality. Secondly, we need to support Black, Asian and ethnic minority-led initiatives with dedicated funding. These initiatives often possess unique insights and deep community connections that are vital for creating meaningful change. By providing dedicated funding, we empower these organisations. Finally, we must implement anti-racist criteria in our grant-making processes. This means explicitly incorporating anti-racist principles into our evaluation frameworks, ensuring that funding decisions are not only based on artistic or sporting merit, but also on a demonstrated commitment to equity and inclusion. This might involve requiring applicants to demonstrate how their projects will address racial disparities or promote positive representation. If we look at DARPL as an example, 86% of the funded staff, contractors and collaborators are from Black, Asian or ethnic minority backgrounds. Furthermore, the small percentage of white, Welsh, British staff members have professional experience of anti-racism in their work history. To ensure it's not enough to simply state our commitment to anti-racism. We must also have robust mechanisms in place to address any incidents of racism that may occur. To guide us in this important work, I'd like to draw your attention to two key resources. The BITC, which is Business in the Community Race Toolkit, Tackling Racial Harassment and Bullying. This toolkit provides a comprehensive framework for organisations to build a culture that champions equality, diversity and inclusion, and it offers practical guidance on how to deal with and manage racial harassment and bullying in the workplace. The DARPL, which stands for Diversity and Anti-Racist Professional Learning, Eradicate Racism in Learning Organisations Guidance. This guide offers practical advice on effectively challenging racist incidents within educational settings and learning organisations in Wales, which can be transferable to some of your organisations. It provides valuable insights into creating safe and supportive environments. Drawing on these resources, we should consider implementing the following: clear and accessible reporting procedures. We must ensure that there are multiple, easily accessible channels for reporting complaints and incidents of racism, and that all staff and participants are aware of these procedures. Prompt and thorough investigations. All complaints and incidents must be investigated promptly and thoroughly with a commitment to fairness and transparency. Appropriate action and support. We must take appropriate action to address any instances of racism, including disciplinary measures where necessary, and provide support to those who have experienced racism. Ongoing monitoring and review. We must regularly monitor and review our handling of complaints and incidents to ensure that our procedures are effective and that we are learning from any mistakes. By implementing these measures and drawing on the valuable resources provided by BITC and DARPL will facilitate your journey to becoming an anti-racist organisation. To achieve lasting change, we must embrace collaboration and best practice across our cultural heritage and sporting organisations here in Wales. We are stronger together, and by learning from each other, we can accelerate our progress towards an anti-racist Wales. This means actively sharing success. We must create platforms and opportunities to showcase effective anti-racist initiatives, celebrating achievements and inspiring others to take action. Hockey Cymru, for example, has shared the positive impact of its anti-racism training initiative, facilitated by Show Racism the Red Card, which included policy review and the creation of an anti-racism action plan. We must also participate in networks, connecting with other organisations and individuals working towards anti-racism allows us to learn from a diverse range of perspectives, access valuable resources, and build a powerful collective voice. For example, to foster collaboration and share best practices within the cultural and heritage sector, Race Council Cymru provides a crucial network for organisations committed to anti-racism. They facilitate connections and knowledge sharing, particularly in areas of inclusive representation and community-led cultural projects. Finally, we need to focus on replicating success. When we identify effective strategies and initiatives, we should actively seek to adapt and implement them in other contexts, ensuring that best practices are shared widely and have the greatest possible impact across Wales. The Welsh Government's Anti-Racist Action Plan emphasises working together to share good practice. Our society in Wales is becoming increasingly diverse and evolving, and this brings renewed urgency to our anti-racism efforts. As we navigate this complex landscape, it's crucial that we create a supportive environment where members of our cultural heritage and sporting organisations can grow, learn, and even make mistakes. It's important to acknowledge that even with the best intentions, people will sometimes make mistakes. We must be prepared to help individuals learn from these experiences, providing them with the space to become better allies and demonstrate solidarity. For instance, as the terminology around race and ethnicity continues to change rapidly, it's possible that individuals, such as a coach, may use incorrect or outdated vocabulary. In such cases, our organisation should respond with support, offering correction and appropriate training. However, this approach must be balanced with a clear understanding of our organisation's policies. It's essential to acknowledge and address the distinction between genuine mistakes and instances of racism with professionalism and accountability. As we move towards embedding anti-racist measures, we must engage in deep self-reflection and critical thinking. To guide this process, please consider the following questions in relation to your organisation's role in Welsh culture, heritage or sport. What specific anti-racist measures can we implement that align with the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan? How can we ensure that our organisation's narratives and representations of Welsh culture and heritage are inclusive of all communities? How can we create safe spaces for open dialogue about race and racism within our organisation and the communities we serve? What steps can we take to ensure that our efforts to embed anti-racist measures are sustainable and lead to long-term meaningful change? These questions are intended to prompt meaningful discussion and action within your organisation. We have provided a reflective task resource to support you to record your reflections. We encourage you to send these into darple@cardiffmet.ac.uk to share your thoughts with the team. As we draw to a close, let's reaffirm our collective commitment to the 2030 vision for an anti-racist Wales. This vision is not simply a goal, it's a promise to build a society where everyone feels valued, respected and empowered. We issue a clear call to action for ongoing professional learning and anti-racist practice. This work is not a one-time initiative, but a continuous journey of learning, growth and action. Your active participation is essential to creating lasting change. One person can make a change in a meeting room, at a board meeting or in a team talk, and that person is you. To support you in this journey, we've compiled a range of resources and support materials. We particularly recommend exploring the valuable resources available on the DARPL website and all reference materials we have on our final slide. There are many organisations doing fantastic and deep work. Yours may be one of them. If you'd like to submit any case studies to showcase on the DARPL virtual campus, please do get in touch.